All right. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of It's Personal. Today, I have someone who I've been following for a very long time now, someone I find very inspirational. I love all of the work that she does, absolutely everything. But I'm going to allow her to introduce herself.
All right. Hey, everyone. My name is Jess Owens-Young. Um, I am a interdisciplinary artist. And during the day, I'm actually a public health professor at a university in Washington, D.C. But when I'm not teaching or doing research, I am creating or thinking about art. So yeah, art is a big part of my life. And so, as I mentioned, I'm a multidisciplinary artist. So what that means is that I work in mixed media. I typically create art that has acrylic painting, oil pastels, acrylic inks, things that I like to just play around with and see what happens. And I'm also a collage artist.
And the work that you do is so amazing. Your work is work that I like to tell people is like for the culture. Everything that I look at and what you do is just so dope. Everything.
Thank you.
I like it all. I really like it all. I always start with this question. Can you tell me about little Jess? Um, Little Jess growing up.
Yeah, little Jess was the kid who always got good grades, but the teacher's comments at the bottom was talks a little bit too much or can't pay attention in class very well. But, academically everything was stellar and I owe that to the imagination of little Jess.
Mm,
She was just curious about everything, and her favorite word was and still is why. And
yeah.
adults tend to find that question annoying from little kids, but that's how we foster curiosity. And that's how I followed my curiosity by asking why. And perhaps that's why I became a researcher,
Mhm,
just following
mhm,
that question. But yeah, little Jess was also very active. She had a lot of energy.
mhm.
And she probably got those remarks from the teachers because little Jess finished her work quickly and wanted to find something else to do or wanted to talk with classmates, or just get into something else. So little Jess was curious. She was very active and had a very, very strong imagination.
I love that, and I love that you started with, you know, you love to ask why. And as a teacher, I have started to enjoy that question even more because it does
Mm,
allow students to really explore and inquire into the questions that they have about the world or a thing or an object. And it can really set them off in a path that can influence art or sport
mhm.
or a topic or an interest. So I really love that you said that. And I think I wish and I hope that teachers are allowing that question to foster in the classroom today because I truly believe that that is the essence of finding what you love is finding the
Mhm.
why, the things that you enjoy.
Absolutely.
So I think that's great. I think that's great. You talk a
Thank
lot
you.
about the people that influence you. Are there specific family? You talk a lot about individuals who are in art that have influenced you. Are there
Mhm.
individuals in your family that are? Is art something that runs in your family, or are you like the lone wolf here?
Art runs in my family in an interesting way. So,
Okay.
first, I'll say how I got back into art because that's a
Hmm.
part of the influence story. So I was a soccer player for many years, played throughout college, played some semi pro. And then one day my body was just like, we're tired. And
As it does.
so um, I was, trying to find something else to do because soccer was such a big part of my identity growing up
Mhm,
and throughout my 20s. And so my wife and my mom just like both really encouraged me in different ways to go back to art. My wife especially encouraged me to take art classes. And so I signed up for a community art center class that was like intro
mhm.
to oil painting, just some random class that
Uh-huh.
I took. And that got me back into art. And so in that way, my wife really pushed me to do that. But
Hmm.
my mom growing up, like she was into art. Like she always had like art books, you know, those thick art books,
I do.
coffee table books. Yeah. And I would flip through those. She also subscribed to Architectural Digest and
Mm,
House Beautiful. And I remember just always leafing through those magazines and admiring like design and things like that.
mhm.
And so at first I wanted to be an architect so I could design those things because, you know, my mom encouraged that as well. But my dad is also creative in his own way. So he's the type of guy that can go to the junkyard, see the treasure in the
One
junk,
of those
spend
guys.
spend like $5 on parts to fix it up and then make a good profit, you know, just sell it off.
Wow.
And so he can see how things fit together, and it makes sense because he's a mechanic.
Hmm.
But yeah, he can just see shapes and how things work together, and he also drew a lot of like floor plans or things like that. Like he built my playhouse in the
Wow.
backyard, and so watching him use his hands in that way was also an influence for me.
That is incredible. I think it's so amazing that you have influence within the family because, oftentimes, that isn't the case where, art is looked at as, especially at a young age, art is looked at art, all the creative
Hmm.
things are quote unquote harder to reach. They don't make money. What are you going to
Right.
do with all this stuff? But when you have influence within like that circle, I think it's so powerful because as being an athlete as well, like, yeah, that is hard when you don't have that outlet. And there's nothing like
Hmm.
competitive sports. I played competitive sports in university. I played basketball. Once it's
Yeah.
gone and you try to like work out or you try to do like pick up here and there, it's not the same.
It is
It
not
is
the
not the
same
same.
at all.
Yeah. But it's so cool
No.
to see that you were able to pick up something after the fact as well. Because
Yeah.
sometimes that doesn't happen. Sometimes that doesn't happen. Yeah. I have one
No.
of the questions I was thinking about, and I have it written down. I'm going to read it. It's a little wordy,
Okay.
but as a self
Okay.
taught artist, how have you cultivated your multidisciplinary approach? And what role has like the experimentation, the exploration played in like the development of like your artist style? Because your style is like very unique. When I see people
Thank you.
repost it or I just see it online, I know it's you. I know it's you. So how did that happen? Because I often see online as well, people are wondering how does one find their writing or their writing or their art style? How did that happen for you?
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I get this question pretty often about like finding your style.
Hmm.
But first, I'll talk about the multidisciplinary approach, and for me, this approach is just rooted in play. And
Mm,
play is a value that I am trying to spread, especially among adults who think that they have to take themselves so seriously or that they don't have time for play. And play is how we learn. So just by playing with different things and figuring out, oh, this is what happens when you add acrylic ink to this kind of medium, right? Or if you mix a wax pastel crayon with acrylic paint, this is what happens. So
mm,
just playing around with things is one way that I explored and started to like solidify my style. Looking at my art friends on IG and what they're doing, and you know, talking in the DMs, learning different techniques from them, and also YouTube has played a big role in my learning and my play and experimentation. But in terms of like finding my style, I think when I first got back into art, around 2018 or so, I really focused on like trying to make things look like how they actually look. You know,
mm.
because growing up, I thought that, oh, to be, you know, a capital A artist, you have to make things that look exactly what it's
The same.
supposed to look like. Right.
Correct. Yep.
And for folks who haven't seen my style is kind of cartoony, you know, and it's kind of childish in a good way, you know, and I really struggled in the beginning with accepting my style once I actually got to that kind
Mm.
of creating. Because, making things look exactly how they're supposed to look was kind of boring to me. And I admire artists who do that really well, but that's not my kind of approach. And so once I finally got to my style again through time, through repetition, through play, the 100-day project really played a big role
Oh
in
wow.
finding my style. And for folks who don't know what that is, it's just for 100 days you pick something to do. And one year I just picked drawing little portraits on scrapbook paper every day, and that helped me to refine my style. But as I was saying, it took me some time to accept that my style was actually also capital A art. Just because it looks, again, childish or cartoony doesn't mean that it's not art. And so just taking time to play and keeping at it, like being consistent, really helped me to find my style.
I love the idea of play. We speak about
Yeah.
play as an elementary teacher. I teach third grade, and play is
Oh,
such a it's something that we consistently talk about. I teach at an
hmm.
international school that is, we do a lot of amazing things with kids, but we are constantly reminding ourselves that they are kids and they also need to
Right.
play, whether that is with paint or pencils or just like actually playing. Because as we get older, we we can't play as much.
Right.
But I think the play allows us to do exactly what you did in regards to finding your style, right? It really
Yep.
allows them to navigate into different realms of things to eventually explore as they get older. So I love that you mentioned play and practice. I think we can't
Absolutely.
talk more enough about the practice that it takes to refine something that you believe in and that you're happy with sharing with other people as well, because that can be really hard, really, really hard, especially
Very.
online today. It really, really
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah. I still get nervous whenever I post something,
Of course, of
you
course, of
know?
course. Yeah. I mean, again, I appreciate it so much. And one of the things I love about your style is like the way that you use color.
Mhm.
You, I feel like, and I feel like, I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you really use color to spark like emotion and feeling in your paintings. Can you tell me a little
Mhm.
bit about that process? So, like, how do you decide what colors you're using, and how does that play a role in the work that you do?
Yeah, color absolutely plays a big role in my art. And as you said, I use color to evoke emotions. Again, since my style doesn't exactly represent things exactly how they look, I do use color to bring up feelings and especially memories. Um,
Mm,
I think I want to use colors that bring up memories of childhood and again,
mm,
memories of play. And so, like, I rely a lot on primary colors
mhm,
to bring out those feelings. And I also use a lot of greens and oranges and pinks, especially for my flowers. And we can
mm.
talk about the flowers in a little
I
bit if you
love the
like.
flowers. I love the
Yeah.
flowers.
Yeah, we can
I
talk
love
about
the
that
flowers.
too. But yeah, colors, is it's one of the first things that people see,
Mm,
right? They might not
mm,
necessarily see the lines or like the textures or things like that. Color really is what attracts us. And I think about nature a lot when I'm thinking about my colors, right? So, for example, male birds and their
mm,
bright colors and how they use colors to attract mates, right? That's one of the first things that the female birds see. Like they might hear the song, but they see the colors of the males. And so I think about that a lot. Like what colors will capture my audience's attention, and also what colors um, should I use that resonate with my memories of childhood, but can be universal. as well.
Hmm.
And so those are the things that are going through my mind when
Hmm.
I'm picking colors. And sometimes it's just vibes. You know,
Yes,
one day I
of
might
course.
really be into a certain color,
Hmm.
and another day I might not. But what I'm finding lately is that I'm curating my colors much more.
Hmm.
So in earlier pieces, especially the pieces with more abstract backgrounds,
Hmm.
I used so many different colors in creating that or those kinds of pieces. But now I'm finding that I'm sticking to um, specific colors consistently, whether it's a painting or a collage. And I'm finding that that's really helping me to refine my visual language as well.
Hmm. Hmm. I love the way that you, um, yeah, I noticed the greens. I noticed like the deep, like blue with like it's almost like a sea blue you like to use a lot.
Hmm.
But I also noticed just the way that you're able to capture features of Black culture in such a vivid way. I mean, specifically like the eyes. When I see like
Hmm.
I know it's yours because I see the eyes, or the lips, or sometimes like the
Yeah.
hair. Honestly, like I could just be scrolling and I'll just know it's yours because of the way that you make the eyes or the lips, or because of the bold colors. How did that happen? Why was it something that you wanted to feature in a lot of your work? Because I think that's like I'd say like that's Jess. Like that's what Jess
Hmm.
does. Like when I see her work, like why was that something that you wanted to highlight?
Yeah, that's a great question. Um, that really taps into when I think about questions around beauty
Mm,
and how Black people fit in or don't fit in into dominant narratives of beauty.
mm,
And, you know, we learn about beauty from an early age, right? And I remember being a kid learning that certain features that are common among Black folk were not valued, right? You get teased about how full your lips are, or the
mm,
shape of your nose, or the
mm.
way that, you know, your eyelids are. Like that's some random one that I've gotten before.
Uh-huh.
But like big eyes and things like that. And you can see that throughout history too, how those features were characterized in mass media. And one
Mhm,
thing about my art is that I like to infuse history throughout. I like for my art to also be an opportunity to learn something new. And
mhm,
so by featuring our features in that way, I am providing an opportunity for folks to re examine what is beautiful and how they view Black folks through a lens of beauty that can really start to lean on or lean towards appreciating our
mm,
features and recognizing the beauty and the fullness of our lips or the shape and texture of our hair, things like that. And so, yeah, so that really just came again also through play, through
mm,
experimentation and trying different ways of featuring our features. And I think
mhm,
I've settled on something that feels good to my soul in the
mm,
way, especially for my collages, the way that I cut the paper to make our features.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do such a good job of that. Again,
Thank
I love
you.
seeing it because growing up it was like I've always had like full lips, and so like then I would
Hmm.
hide them. Like my family, like in general, like they said, like I'd always get like, oh, like look at your nose, and then I would hear comments like your nose is like your grandfather's, and it was something that I like always was taken aback. I was like, what is that like? You know what I mean? Like you said, like what do
Right.
you mean by that? Like what are you trying to say? But when you see art being, displayed that way in such a beautiful, landscape and like history, like your art really tells a story, and it really does allow, a window for people to look in and be like, oh, like let me examine why this artist is really what is this artist really trying to tell me through the work that they're doing. And you
Right.
do such a beautiful job of that. Such a beautiful job of that.
Thank you.
Yeah. The other question I had was like you talk about like exploring, and I have this one written down too. I have a few written down.
Sure.
You talk about exploring like interior lives of Black people, both like physically and emotionally. So my question was like, what unique challenges or considerations do you navigate when trying to capture these like intimate dimensions of like the Black experience? Because we know that those experiences are so broad, and
Mm-hmm.
they're happening all the time. Um, so what challenges or things do you consider when you're making your work?
Yeah, that's another great question. One challenge that I try to be cognizant of is not falling into like specific tropes around
Mm,
blackness and how we think and what we believe. Um, there's no one way to be black and to have a black interior
mm,
life. And so I try to not, fall into just one narrative of what it's like to be black or what black people
mm.
think
I
about
love that.
and things. Yeah. Yeah,
Mhm,
that's really a challenge though, because what you see praised on social media or what you see like getting brand sponsorships or being celebrated often falls into certain types of blackness, right? And it's easy for people, especially creatives and artists who are just starting out, to fall into one of those lines of thinking or lines of creating in the hopes of being picked up or being celebrated or being quote unquote successful, right? And so that is a challenge to try to stay unique to your authentic voice while also recognizing that there are different ways to represent blackness and black experiences. So I would say
mhm.
that's one of the biggest challenges, especially because you can only sometimes rely on your own experience, especially if you
Sure,
don't read or
sure.
watch films or listen to music to expose yourself to
Mhm,
other
mhm,
ways of being black or even just being human in this
mhm,
world. It's so easy to just stick to your own experiences and not explore others in that
mhm.
way.
Yeah, I think, and again, I think it's hard to share everything, but I think you do a great job of really helping people who are watching you, at least online, because I know you do a lot. You do a lot more than just post the pictures. Like there's other things that are happening, right? So I think you do a really good job of allowing people into your world of the experiences that you're having, or they could be experiences from other people, or things that you're
Hmm.
seeing online, or things that are happening in like the news, etc. Yeah, I think you do a really good job of that. Tell me about Jess, the soccer player. This is something I didn't know. I'm intrigued.
Yeah. Wow. Just a soccer player. So I started playing soccer around 7 or 8. And it really
Mhm,
started with playing with the boys in the schoolyard playground.
mhm.
And they would only let me play goalie. And so I actually started out as a goalkeeper. Brianna Scurry was one of my heroes growing
Wow,
up when I was
wow.
a goalkeeper. Yeah. Then I started playing rec league and then eventually moved up to travel leagues and things like that. I was a part of the Olympic development program in Maryland and just going up the ranks
Mhm,
throughout college. And I've switched from goalkeeper to striker. Um, I don't even remember. It was probably about 11 or
mhm,
so.
mhm.
Um, I switched to that position, and I that's what I play: striker or forward or wing. Sometimes a little bit midfield, but not often. I just like to score goals, and I was very fast. I was a very fast soccer player, and I also ran track.
Mhm.
Um, so it was tough to keep up with me, and I tried to use my speed to
Mhm.
my advantage. And you know what? Now that I'm saying that out loud, that actually kind of connects to how I approach art.
Mm.
Um, and the reason why I say that is because I try to use my strengths in
Mhm.
my art and try to, um, really leverage what I know and what I'm good at
Yeah.
in my
As
art.
you should.
Yeah,
As you should.
yeah, you should. You don't have to be everything,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
be good at all things.
Mhm.
And so, I knew as a soccer player, my greatest strength was my speed. I wasn't the most technical player,
Mm-hmm.
but I could outrun people, and I also had endurance. And so those were things that I leaned on. But yeah, soccer was my life. And like at a point, I had to choose between art and soccer. I think
Mm-hmm.
in early like middle school, just because soccer was getting so serious,
Mm-hmm.
and I chose soccer, which sometimes I regret, but overall, I'm glad I did because your body only can last so long in a sport, but art is a lifelong
It is.
endeavor, and so I can do this for the rest of my life. I could play pickup sometimes, but I'll probably be sore for the next week.
It's different.
Yeah, it's different.
It's different. It's different. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can you tell me more about, because you said you also did track. And I think
Hmm.
I had this conversation with someone else that I talked to recently. Um, the idea of like specializing in a sport or an idea or a concept or
Hmm.
whatever it is. Growing up, you said you had to choose when you were, I can't remember the age, sorry. Did you say 11?
Like, yeah, middle school, around
Yeah.
that time. Yeah.
But you also did track.
Hmm.
Yeah. So can you talk about I mean, do you remember that process of deciding between soccer and art? Can you talk a little bit about the idea of like specializing at 11, etc.? Because I know as a kid, like I had to kind of do the same thing. I was playing baseball and then I was
Hmm.
playing basketball, and then sometimes they'd have camps and I'd have to decide, and then like there's travel
Yep.
teams and all this like stuff. Can you tell me about that experience for you?
Yeah. So yeah, around early middle school, I couldn't do all the things, right? And my parents had to consider like taking me places, who's going
Mhm.
to take me to practice and things like that. And they didn't have a lot of time to do everything, so I had to choose. And soccer to me was like a physical and mental outlet. I
Mm.
got to be on a team, and art is normally an individual. I mean, you could have a team, but 99% of the time it's me alone in
Uh-huh.
my studio,
Uh-huh.
right? So I wanted to be a part of a team. I had friends, on the team, and also at that time, as I mentioned earlier, like my idea of art, at least capital A art, was again this very narrow notion of you make things look exactly what it looks like, right? And if you can't do that, you're just drawing cartoons or comics, and that's not considered art, right? And so in my young mind, I didn't think of myself as an artist, or I didn't think of myself as having talent enough in art to carry me through college or as a career. And I think as a kid, I had an inkling that I could get a scholarship to play soccer in college, which I did, which was very helpful.
Yep.
So I'm I'm strategizing, at that young age of thinking about not only am my friends doing this sport and I can hang out with them more, but also what would be fruitful as a career option, or like to get me to college so that I can start my career. And
Mhm.
like I said, there was no like formal artist in my family. I didn't know what it looked like to be an artist or to have art as a profession. So um, I could see other things, and I thought that soccer could take me there.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Mhm.
so that's kind of what I remember thinking and feeling at
Yeah.
that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love the introduction to sport at a young age. I think it's interesting with the idea of specializing. I do think kids should be at least given the opportunity to try a lot of stuff,
Mhm.
especially early on, because you just don't know. You don't know what your thing is. I
You
think
don't.
sometimes there's kids and you're like, oh, okay, that kid, like, you know what I mean? Like, once in a while there's that kid, but oftentimes I think most of us have to go through some trial and error, whether it's art, whether it's football, whether it's track, whether it's writing, whatever. But if they're not exposed to it, they don't even have an opportunity to know that thing that they may potentially like or want to do for the rest of
Right.
their life is actually there. So I love that you had that opportunity And I love even more that you were able to come back to
Me
art.
too.
It's like such a full circle, such a full circle.
It
Um,
is.
yeah.
Something that my mom often says to me is, "Oh, I'm so glad that you are using your gift." And she
Mm,
also says, "I was hoping and praying that you would use your gift."
wow. Wow.
Yeah, she says that to me pretty often, and to me that makes me think that she recognized at a young age that I had a
Mhm,
talent in
mhm.
art, but she also like gave me the choice between like attending different kind of art schools and camps and playing soccer, you
Wow.
know?
Shout out to mom.
Yeah.
Shout out
Yeah, yeah,
to mom.
she really set the foundation for this journey. And I like to also think that my wife kind of reinforces
Yeah.
that journey,
That's what our
in her own
partners
way.
do, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, she does. Yep.
Yeah, I think that having a partner who is able to not only be there for you when the things are good, but also like push you a little bit and, ask
Hmm.
you to like critically think a little bit about decisions or, just like life in general. I think that is where like the growth is.
Absolutely.
I think that's why my wife and I have been married for a while now. And I think
Hmm.
once we've realized, or I think once I realized that what she was doing was like pushing me and making me think critically about things, that's where I felt like I was growing the most as well. Because of course, they're going to be your number one cheerleader regardless,
Yeah,
right? But they also are there to give you the tough love when we need to be kicked in the butt or whatever the case may be. So yeah, shout out to all the
absolutely.
partners who are just being good partners as well.
Yeah, yeah, because not everyone has one.
I agree.
You know.
Yeah, not everyone has one. Just I
Yeah.
want to just before we leave, is there certain projects that you are currently working on or that you have worked on that has really left like a long lasting um, you know what's the word, a long lasting like impression on you, or just like have really something that you remember doing?
Hmm. I mean, I would have to say it's projects that I'm currently doing that have really impacted me. So I'll name two. So one is my series of the Negro Leagues baseball
So good.
paintings
It's
and
so
collages.
it's so
Yeah,
good.
I'm working on a painting now for the Chicago American Giants. Um, and I think that has left an impression on me because it exposed me to a side of history that wasn't taught to
Mm,
me. To
mhm.
me, baseball, was a white dude sport,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Especially growing up, I
Mhm,
mean, I had a few folks that I could see playing, um, like Ken Griffey Jr. I remember him,
mhm,
growing up, but not as much as I see now,
mhm.
black folks playing baseball. And so going back and learning that history of these different leagues that were just for us, and like how much they were supported and what that did for black communities really has left a impact on me. And I'm a person who minored in history and studied a lot of African American history in college
Uh-huh.
and never knew about the Negro Leagues. And I can't even remember how I stumbled upon it, to be honest, how I
Mhm.
learned about it. But I just remember since learning about them, it sparked something in me, and I wanted to create a representation of what their sports cards might have looked like,
My God,
you
you're
know?
so good. That's so good.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, that has left an impression on me, and I would say like this new series that I just started um, about Oak Bluffs and its role in our history of leisure and vacationing,
Mhm.
right? Um, and I'm focusing right now on this fictional golf club called Oak Bluffs Golf Club, and I have a whole cast of characters that I'm going to build stories around to talk
Mm.
about Black leisure and our connection to sport in general, but also to golf. as
Hmm.
well. Because similar to baseball, growing up, like that was something white dudes did on the
Yeah.
weekends, or made business deals,
Yeah.
playing golf, and also tennis. I had the same impression about tennis. And so in the future, I hope to do a series around tennis as well. But yeah, so the Oak Bluffs series is leaving an impression on me because it's really talking about Black people do rest, and we do enjoy going to the beach and having leisure time. And,
Mhm.
there's a role for the story of Black folks' struggles and things that we have overcome in art, right? But I feel that my role is to also talk about things that we do to care for ourselves, things that we do to connect with others, things that we do to connect with nature. And so this new series talks about that, our connection to golf, our connection to vacationing and leisure, and creating spaces of our own in order to, let down the mask, let down the shields that protect us, in a white dominant society, and in order to connect to ourselves and with ourselves in nature.
That's
So,
incredible. That's
yeah, thank
incredible.
you.
Yeah, I love that you are learning through your own process while you're creating. I think
Hmm.
that's such a powerful way of just like being so immersed in the work, and you almost forget that it's work because you're like
Right.
learning about something as well. So I think that's so cool. I appreciate you
Thank
so
you.
much. Just where can
Yeah.
people find you online?
Um, well, I didn't talk about the flowers. Do you
Oh
want
my,
me to talk
the
about the
flower! We
flowers?
forgot about the flowers.
Yeah.
Talk about
Yeah.
the
Let me
flowers.
tell
Talk
folks
about the
about the
flowers.
flowers. And also the glasses. So flowers and glasses are repeating motifs in my art. They're
Uh-huh.
repeating images in my art. Flowers really represent our own blooming, our
I
own
can't believe I
blossoming.
forgot about the flowers.
Yep. I didn't. So it's important for me to include flowers in my art because I remember, I don't know if I read something or if I heard it, but I remember somebody talking about like a Black person painting still life or painting flowers or something like that. And somebody asked them, like, why are you painting flowers when like we have all this going on, against us? So talking about oppression and things like that. And like I remember like the person saying like we have joy and beauty too.
Mhm.
It's not just always about oppression. And so the flowers represent the joy and beauty in our lives, and it also represents a promise fulfilled. One of my pieces is titled like uh, a bloom is a promise fulfilled, and that's because you plant a seed in the earth.
Mm.
You hope that it grows, and like that seed is like a promise that I'm going to bloom and I'm going to grow and I'm going to thrive. So I include flowers in my paintings. Usually my paintings, those are oil pastel flowers that I draw
Mhm.
on, but in my collages they're actually painted paper, and I also use hymn paper.
What's
And
hemp paper?
so hymnals,
Oh, hymnals. Wow.
yeah. So
I gotta zoom in more.
yeah. So yeah, I use hymnals, paper from hymnals, to include in my flowers because like it's a representation of my connection to spirit and to God as well. And I think flowers are a beautiful connection to spirit, the creator, whatever you believe in or don't believe in.
Mhm.
But what I believe in is God as a creator of the universe. And then my glasses is also a repeating
Believe I
imagery
forgot about
because
like two of the most
yeah, the
important.
glasses. I've been wearing glasses since I was like 8.
Wow.
Um, so that's a way for me to put a little part of myself
Mm,
into every um, piece that I create. But glasses also represent a way to fix vision, to ensure
mhm,
that we see clearly. And I like to include them on my figures because the way that Black folks, especially Black kids, are viewed, it needs to be fixed in the broader media and broader
I love
society,
that. I love that.
right? And
Hmm.
so the glasses are a representation of challenging and changing the narrative around Black folks. Yeah.
How did I forget about the two? The two, I literally have them at the top of my list: the glasses and
It's
flowers. I can't
it's all good.
believe
We got
oh,
to it. That's all that
it's.
matters.
I mean that, and that's it, and that's one of the reasons why I was so excited to talk about you because like your work is so. I mean, yeah, you would like you said, it looks childlike, but it has
Hmm.
such a powerful message through everything that you do, and I that's why I appreciate it so much. And I love the way that you know play with colors, the way that you have like the line strokes, like it's never the same,
Mm-mm.
never the same. But I love how you add the glasses or the flowers in different ways. It is again, it's all you have. Did I know you have a T-shirt? Do you have a T-shirt on too?
I do have a
Oh
T-shirt
my
on.
gosh! All
Yeah,
right,
it's one of them.
look at
It says,
this.
"Give him
Is this like
flowers."
available? Because I don't think I've seen these.
No, this one's not available. I'm figuring all of that out, right?
Uh
Like the
huh.
merch. So I have stickers and prints
Hmm.
on my Etsy shop,
Hmm.
and for now, originals on my Etsy shop. Although how you can collect my originals is about to change, and I'll share all of that on my IG or on my newsletter if y'all go to my website and subscribe.
Please.
Um, and I'll share that in a minute. But yeah, I'm trying to figure out like how to get these shirts to y'all, and also like hats, things like that. But yeah, this is a sample one. So I've been ordering samples. I just want to see proof of concept and
Uh
to
huh.
make sure I like it.
Uh huh.
So I'm hoping that over the next few months, y'all will be able to collect these t-shirts.
They're amazing. They are
Hmm. Thank
absolutely
you.
amazing. I mean, I'm all older. How do you, I don't want to ask you too many questions, but like, do you have ideas around what amount will be on shirts? Like, which pictures will be on shirts? How many you're gonna print? I don't
Yeah,
know.
I have no idea, to be honest. I have no idea. I'm
And you
working
don't
with
have
some
to know.
folks.
Yep, and you don't have
Yeah,
to know. You do not have to know. I
yeah.
think all those things are amazing. I think that people would I would hope people would flock to the idea of you having merchandise that people can wear. And again,
Mhm.
specifically because like I said it before, like it is so much for the culture, and I appreciate the work that you do so much. So I'll be the first one in line if I have to be. So I'm here for it.
Thank
I
you.
am
But I'll be
genuinely here
sure
for it. Yes.
to
Yeah.
keep folks updated about that. I would love to have, especially the Negro Leagues
Hmm.
baseball paintings. I would love to have shirts for y'all to collect, and also the I read banned books
Hmm. Oh my
series.
gosh. Like incredible.
Yeah,
Incredible. I know
yeah.
people would love and support that so much. So yeah, we'll be waiting. Take your time. Take
Thanks.
your time. So you're on
Appreciate that.
Instagram, obviously. Uh,
Yeah.
what's your website?
So I'm on Instagram at Truth of Strength. And my website is jessicaowensyoung.com. All one word. So just
Awesome.
my name, no hyphen. Um, yeah, jessicaowensyoung.com. It needs to be updated, but that's coming soon.
Take
I'm
your
very
time.
active. Yeah, I'm very active on IG. So if you're on IG, you can follow me there and see, new works and a peek into my process, things like